Welcome, everyone. How wonderful to be together today in One Mountain, Many Paths, where our mission is what Barbara Marx Hubbard and Dr. Mark Goffney call a planetary awakening in love through unique self-symphonies. We are activating a new humanity and awakening as a new species, Homo Amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. As a church, synagogue, mosque, temple, zendo, no one is excluded and everyone is included. And we come together to attune to the evolutionary impulse awakening within us. I am Christina Tehel, the co-executive producer, along with Krista Josefa, Jacqueline Clark, and Jamie Long. And we are so delighted to be together with each and every one of you today in week 280 of our live community broadcast. What a privilege it is to be part of a global community where we support humanity's flourishing. Use the Zoom and Facebook chat functions to say hello, to let us know where you're from, to resonate the Dharma, and to speak your prayers. On Zoom, check that your chat settings say everyone so that we can all hear from you. Sign up for and read our weekly emails. There you find our replays, our community activities, featured videos, volunteer opportunities, celebration, surprise, and inspiration. Care to step into the work and practice of creating the great Homo Amor library? Reach out to me for the holy opportunity. My email is in the chat box now. Today, we celebrate Sharmila. She works with our new Outrageous Love Ambassador team, sharing the Dharma on social media platforms. Sharmila, we so deeply appreciate your outreach, your enthusiasm, and your unique creativity. Thank you so much. What to expect today? First, a Dharma recap from myself, then Dr. Goffney sets our intention, and then David resonates the evolutionary love code that we're working with. And then we move into our evolutionary love sermons with Dr. Goffney and sometimes the clip from Barbara Marx Hubbard. And then we move into meditation to enter prayer. To close, Krista invites us deeper into community. And then we bring everyone on at the end for our goodbyes and a short intimate dance. Mark writes evolutionary love codes. Mark and Barbara studied the codes together, often comparing them to Barbara's own 52 codes for conscious self-evolution. These codes crystallize the new story of humanity, quote, evolving the course of consciousness and culture, which is the source code of love, unquote. We have the privilege to be a part of the emergence of these first principles and first values. The Dharma gates are open. Every week we are blessed. And we do our best to end at the top of the hour, but sometimes, often we do go over. So listen to our replay if you have to leave early, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. I welcome all who are new. We need you. Know that each week is a standalone and every week builds on the week before. One Mountain, Many Paths is radically committed to telling the new universe story. Now, for my recap from last week. The challenge, a meta-crisis. The response, a new cultural enlightenment. Unique self and unique self-symphonies. Our challenge, the meta-crisis. It's not one crisis. The meta-crisis is a series of crises in different domains, a culture of death that leads to existential risk. After we've gone through all the stages of human history, matter, life, mind, we've come to this place in which the gap between our exterior technologies in their exponential forms and the paucity, dearth, and collapse of our interior technologies of value have created extraction models, exponential growth curves, tragedies of the commons, and multipolar tracks in which everyone has to keep producing to the nth degree, and there are weaponized exponential threats to our very existence. The response to the meta crises to date have been rooted in infrastructure or new social structures, meaning a new set of laws, a new government structure, supply chains, the linear materials economy, etc. We need to have an emergent order, a cultural enlightenment, which self-organizes based on simple first principles towards a complex and beautiful society, which is the most beautiful world we know is possible. And it's only unique self and unique self symphonies that can generate a complex and coherent system. We all live in inescapable frameworks or the stories we live in. Right now, reality lives in a win-lose metrics, and that story generates existential risk. We need to change that story, but not a made-up story, a true story of value rooted in first principles and first values. Our response to the meta crisis is unique self and unique self symphonies. Unique self answers the question, who am I? Unique self symphonies answers the question, who are we? Uniqueness is like the pheromones in an ant colony that self-organizes the ants, or like the exchange of intelligence between bees. But how does uniqueness work on the human level? What drives us? What guides us? What's our North Star? Unique self, our unique set of allurements that call us forward to our unique gift, our unique configuration of desires, not surface desire, not pseudo desire, not the lowest common denominator desire manipulated by the internet, whose goals are bottom lines of profit and control, but actually our deepest heart's desire, our clarified desire, which allows us to play our instrument in the unique self symphony. It is only our transformation from a separate self to true self, I'm part of the field, to unique self, I'm a unique expression of the field, to an evolutionary unique self, I'm a unique self in an evolutionary context who feels the evolutionary impulse pulsing in the body, knowing that that evolutionary impulse has a personal face, and that personal face is my unique self. That's how I joined in the Unique Self Symphony. Unique Self Symphony is made up of evolutionary unique selves, acting as unique expressions of love intelligence all over the world. To see around the corner, to not obsess in the details and contractions of our lives. Let us see bigger. Let us take complete care of ourselves in every possible way. Let us completely attend to those in our circle of intimacy and influence, and let us expand our circle. Now I invite us to more deeply enter the holy and sacred space of one mountain, many paths, and I turn my word to you, Dr. Mark Goffney.
Thank you so much, Christina Amelon. Welcome. Welcome. What a beautiful Dharma recap. And Christina Amelon, it's great to have you here in Miami, right down the road, which is gorgeous. Friends, welcome. And we're here to talk about what the next step looks like. We're here at this moment, right, poised between utopia and dystopia. In this time between worlds, right? In this time between stories, in which we have the capacity to change the future. And the only way the future will change is that capacity activated in us. You know, I sometimes think about that. Do you remember that old story about the young boy who comes before the wise king? And the king is supposed to be, you know, all-knowing and wise and deep. And the child says, I'm going to outsmart the king. I'm going to show that he doesn't really know anything. So the boy comes with a butterfly in his hand. The butterfly, the symbol of beauty and aliveness and transformation. The caterpillar hangs upside down in a chrysalis and slowly transforms to a butterfly. So the child comes with the butterfly before the king, and the butterfly is in his hand. And he says, "Oh Lord, great king, I've heard of your wisdom. Tell me, please, is the butterfly alive or is the butterfly dead?" And of course, the boy thinks to himself, if the king says the butterfly is dead, I'll open my hand and the butterfly will flutter and fly before everyone, and they'll gasp at the silly and stupid king. And if the king says, right, the butterfly is alive, I'll close my hand and kill the butterfly. And I'll open my hand and people will again gasp at the silly and stupid king. So there's no way the king can win. And the king, right, the goddess, looks at the boy and says with a tear streaming down his cheek, streaming down her cheek, whether the butterfly lives or dies depends on you, right? And that's never been more true in human history. We live for the first time in the Anthropocene. And the human, the Anthropocene means that for the first time in the history of our planet, whether life, whether humanity particularly, lives or dies, depends on us. Will we contract? Will we get lost in our success story? Will we look down? Will we go on with business as usual? Or will we open our hand, right? Palms open. I open my hand. And that's the movement of prayer. I open my hand, and the butterfly, life transformed, emerges from my hand. And we come together every week in this broadcast, in this community, in this band of outrageous lovers, to actually participate together in the most powerful human act at this moment in time, which can directly change the vector of human history. And that is to actually tell a new story, to replace the success story, to create a framework from which in the new creativity can happen, to create a new matrix out of which emerges the new human and the new humanity. Because the story, humanity, we think in stories. The story is the source code. It's a story of who am I? We said last week, it's a story of who are we? It's a story of where are we? And it's a story of where are we going? Where do we need to go? And finally, the fifth dimension, what is there that needs to be done? Those are the essential questions. And how we respond to those questions is the source code story of humanity. So if I live in a success story, so I've got a set of answers to those questions. Okay, who am I? I am a human being that does not have intrinsic value, right? Unless I can actually commodify my productivity and sell it into the market in a particular way. Who are we? We are competitors. We are objects in each other's success story. We are instruments to each other. We are means to each other's ends. We are all implicitly in rivalrous conflict, which is governed by win-lose metrics. That's where we. Right? Where are we? We're in a materialist cosmos in which death is the end of every story, and that death is a blackness that never lifts. When we die, it's over. There's no continuity of consciousness, and there's no intrinsic value in the world. There's no innate meaning. We make meaning up. We don't discover it. We don't disclose it. What's there to do? Where are we going? Where are we going? Well, it's a few billion years away, but let's talk about it a lot now, just because we seem to have nothing else to do, and it expresses our materialist sentiments. We're going towards heat death. Now, I don't think that's true scientifically, but there's all this, like, billions of years we're gonna implode anyways. So let's take that implosion and move it into today, because it actually augments the sense of meaninglessness. Let's have another article on heat death. Again, ignoring bracketing what I think is the bad science of heat death, right, and the bad science of entropy that Howard Bloom has pointed to, for example, one of the great, thinkers and physics, right, persons of the planet today, right, has kind of written very, very importantly about, right, the ultimate absurdity of heat death, right, in a self-organizing universe. But bracket that. The reason we have all these articles of heat death, because they augment and complement, right, the sense of meaninglessness. So where are we going? Right, either nowhere or towards heat death. And what's there to do? Succeed. What's there to do? I've got to succeed. And no matter what I say, what I have to do is to succeed, right? And we saw when we did a 6-week analysis of the movie Don't Look Up, and we saw how big tech, for example, hijacked Nobel laureates, right, great scientists, right, because they could give them more in terms of the win-lose metrics than they could get anyplace else. So the drive and curiosity and innate nobility of science gets hijacked, right, by the win-lose metrics. There are 10,000 data scientists in the world today who are critical in responding to existential and to catastrophic risk. Virtually all of them work for the 5 major big tech firms. Universities today can barely fill a position with anyone of caliber in data science, because they get hijacked and hired, right, by the success story, right? So when we're living, right, in the success story, we know what the answers are to these 5 questions. And that's what creates the extraction model. And that's what creates the exponential growth curve. And that's what creates 1 million suicides a year and 25 attempts for every suicide that succeeds, right? And 100 people deeply musing and contemplating suicide in a serious way, right? Which means if we've got 1 million suicides a year, we have 100 million people who are kind of in a deep foreboding, and then billions of people with a fundamental sense of malaise, right, and dis-ease, because they've been told that there's no framework of value, there's no intrinsic meaning, there's no intrinsic joy, right, in the whole thing. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do when all of these factors together have generated, for the first time in human history, genuine risk to our existence itself? What do we need to do? We need to retell the story. And that's what we need to do. And that's what we're here to do. And we do this every week, and we engage a different piece of the story as revolutionaries, as outrageous lovers. And we enter into that dimension of the story, and we fill it with the best of the sciences, interior sciences, right? The best of the wisdoms of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern, the best of the exterior sciences, and we tell the most daring, the most bold, the most compelling, the most alive story that re-narrates our answer, our response to all 5 of these questions. Wow. Wow. And that is the great joy of this generation. It's the overwhelming moral imperative of this generation. So last week, friends, we talked about unique self and unique self symphony. We're going to continue that conversation today. But first, let's just find each other in a code. We have a very simple code this week. Then let's practice, and let's dive in like we never have before. So it's madly delightful to see you, right? To be with you, right? To be in this conversation, right, to be together. So a mad welcome. When I say a mad welcome, I mean not an ordinary welcome, but a mad welcome. We can never rely on yesterday. We had a pre-meeting right before we began One Mountain. And usually we put the music on about 10 minutes before, but we went to like 30 seconds before because, we were gathering, we were finding each other. And what I was sharing with my friends before at the pre-meeting was, we can never assume we're together because we were together yesterday, right? Oh my God, we get to be here right now. So I want to just invite everyone to be surprised. Let go of the jaded self. Let go of the self that seems to know exactly what's coming. Right? You can know what's coming and be wildly and radically surprised. Don't wait to be entertained. Take responsibility for your own arousal. Let's take responsibility to be alive, to be surprised, right? To feel the wild energy of the newness of this day. This day's never been. None of us have ever been who we are on this day, right? Not only do every hour or so, millions of cells change in our body. Every X amount of time, we physically become an entirely new person, but also in terms of the interior sciences, we have a new sets of experience, new interpretations of those experiences, and we're in a new day, which is a new unique self in time, which has new qualities and new potentialities and is pregnant with new potencies, right? And is potentiated with new possibilities, right? This is a huge day. So I just want to invite you, if I can, with permission, gentle, tender permission, be surprised. Let's surprise each other today. Let's say things in the deepest way we can. Let's find each other with the most open hearts, but not as ordinary human beings, but as outrageous lovers. And in every generation, there's a group of people who say, we're going to take responsibility. We're going to move this forward. We're going to be the mystery school. Well, today, as we face exponential technologies generating existential and catastrophic risk, it's actually the mystery schools that are actually going to make the difference. It's actually the welling up of new structures of meaning articulated, right, carefully, potently, right, and new frameworks of new stories that actually penetrate culture that will actually take us in this 11th hour, right, to the next step. So I am madly surprised to be with you today. I'm surprised, right, at the privilege of this. I'm surprised at each person who's here. I'm surprised to hear David. I was surprised to hear Haley, right, give her beautiful Dharma recaps. It's so great to be with you. So madly delighted. David, give us a little resonance, brother.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. So good to be surprised with everyone. And you mentioned the inner circle of the pre-meeting. One of the things I love about working with the production team is that we don't just learn the new story, we live the new story. And it's the microcosm that we access this evolutionary love together and lean into a new way of being. And it's such a joy to be able to do that. So friends, what are we doing here? It all depends on us, as Dr. Mark was saying. Well, we show up and we learn the new story and we live the new story. And there's so many breakout groups that are, affiliated with One Mountain that are living the new story in different courses and writing groups. And Krista will mention that later. And one of the ways that we do that is through accessing outrageous love, evolutionary love in these evolutionary love codes. And these love codes are meant to be sort of tuning forks to the deepest knowing of our soul, to the deepest knowing of our unique selves. So it's like a lightning rod that electrifies our being and wakes us up to our potential. But here's this week's evolutionary love code. It's very short because it's so powerful. The question is the meta crisis. The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. The question is the meta crisis, and the answer is unique self and unique self symphony. So it's my delight to turn it back to you, beloved Dr. Mark.
Thank you, David. And everybody, the question is the meta crisis. The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. But there is another answer, which is David's hat. So I just want to have a little vote right in the chat box for a second. What do people think about David's hat? I love his hat. So I just want to get any comments on the hat. Any comments on the hat before we go on? Who likes the hat? Hot. Okay, love it. Love the hat. Amen to that. David's hat. David's hat. Love that hat. Right. Love it. Love the hat. David, the hat is doing good. Right? Oh my God. Yes. So here we go. Friends, we're going to just practice Right? Practice means we're going to access an interior technology, and that interior technology actually opens the field. That's what mystical practice is. And we need practices that actually allow us to access real value in the field. Right? There's a colleague of mine that I'll be dialoguing with soon, who's talking a lot about, we need meaning. We need to answer the meaning crisis. That's true, but he's trying to answer the meaning crisis without intrinsic value. Right? You can't answer the meaning crisis without intrinsic value. It can't be done. You have to actually be accessing a field of value. And if you're not in the field of value, if you're doing a kind of, subtle positivist move, it doesn't work, right? We can only respond to the meaning crisis when there's an intrinsic field of meaning that we can access. And to access an intrinsic field of meaning, we have to open up what I'm trying to call in the last 7-8 weeks, the field of value, right? We have to access the field of value, right? And you access the field of value how? Through the eye of value. And that's a new term I want to share with you. It's the eye of value. It's been called before the eye of the spirit or the eye of the heart. But it's really the eye of value. It's the eye with which I discern value. And so we practice to open the eye of the heart, to open the eye of the spirit, to open the eye of value, right? We can do sensory logical deduction to access the eye of the senses. Is it raining or is it not raining? The Hubble telescope, the fMRI. We can use the mind, right, to access the eye of the mind, right, and all the moral reasoning, mathematics, etc. But to actually know value, right, to address a meaning crisis, we need the eye of value, right? And if I disqualify the eye of the value, and I say in the politics of the real that all of this is excluded from the real, meaning from ultimate reality, then we can't move. We can't move anything. Okay? So let's open, if we can, the eye of value, right? And on our podcast, on our broadcast, in our One Mountain Space, right, we practice together to open that eye and to feel, right, the subtle shift in which we can begin to feel the field of reality. So Krista and Tahalia are going to put in a chant that we did. It's called Mizmor Shir. Well, first, we're going to listen to it. We're just going to hear it once. Then we're actually going to look at the words. We're going to practice it. Then we're going to dive into Unique Self and Unique Self Symphony. I'm so insanely, madly delighted to be with you. Okay? So let's just kind of close our eyes for a second. I'm going to ask everyone not to text anyone, not to get something else done on the to-do list. Right? We're trapped by our to-do lists. Our to-do lists are so much longer than our wish lists. Right? So let the to-do list go. Let's close our eyes. Right? Let's step in and let's, Christina, let's actually put the chant on. Let's actually hear it. Okay? We actually want to hear the chant. We're going to first listen to it. Right? We're going to hear a recording of it that we actually made. Right? So we'll have for this morning. And then we're going to actually practice it ourselves. Okay, so how far are we? I'm just going to kind of check for a second. Give me a note in the chat box here. How far are we away from hearing that recording? Okay, hopefully that's happening in just about 1 second. So take us in. Go.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך באמונתך בלילות.
Beautiful, right? Welcome, right? So just in the chat box, just find your feeling for a second. And just write in the chat box if you're up for it. Just what did that make you feel? What did that evoke? Don't think, just the feeling. Find the feeling. The universe feels open, joy, right? Softening, right? Alive, right? Sweetness, right? Resonance of electricity, dancing lightly, peace, peaceful and grateful, gentle, right? Happy, welcome, comfort, right? Allurement, right? Right? Uplifting. So just notice that all of the words we just used are qualities of reality that weren't quite in the space in the same way. So the chant evokes, just like Dharma, just like when we study, when we go into the depth of insight, we're not just talking about conceptual ideas, right? When we share, when we talk, when we study, we're trying to be in a transmission, right? A lived experience of the interior face of cosmos that the words are pointing towards, right? And that's true when we're talking Dharma. When we're talking Dharma, we're singing, we're chanting. When we're chanting, we're talking Dharma, right? When we're chanting, right, first principles of reality are being evoked, right? When we're talking about first principles, there's a melody to them. There's no difference. And so we can't actually have a conversation about first principles and first values and a story of value without being in the field of value, right? And the field of value is not just that I'm meditating, right? You can actually meditate and not be in the field of value. So for example, my colleague Sam Harris, right, teaches meditation, waking up, but manages to dissociate the meditation from the field of value because Sam says, you know, echoing Derek Parfit, right? We make value up. It's not actually real. It's not actually intrinsic to cosmos. So I can meditate because that's an epiphenomena, right, of my brain, which is called consciousness. And I can have these relaxing and soothing feelings. And I can even be mindful, but that's not, mindfulness doesn't mean I'm in the field of value. Now, when I enter the field of value, I'm actually entering the field and I'm tasting and experiencing value directly. Does everyone get that? So we can actually be in the transmission. We can be in the transmission. It's a transmission of value. We're opening up the field of value. And it's not because someone has a particularly good voice. So I'm going to do this chant again. I'm going to ask to put in, we're going to put in, right, for a second now, the words. And we're going to chant this together from wherever we are, right, around the world. And I'm going to do it a little bit off tune because I do, you know, pretty much all chanting a little bit off tune. And I've been chanting and leading chanting for 40 years. But we lead chanting, right, in our own hearts, and we lead it with each other, right, because our hearts are blown open, and we can find each other, and we're loving each other for real, madly, right? We're committed to each other madly, for real, right? We're not using love as another commodity, and it's not a strategy, right? It's the actual self-evident goodness of reality coursing through me that allows me to see you with God's eyes. Allows me to see you with the eyes of eternity. It allows me to see you with evolutionary eyes. Okay, so let's actually chant together. Yay. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai. Mizmor shir leyom HaShabbat, טוב להודות לאדוני, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, to sing a song of the Sabbath. It's good to sing with God, to sing a song of the Sabbath. It's good to sing with God, to speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. Oh, Mizmor Shir, together around the world. Mizmor Shir, Leyom HaShabbat, so good to sing with thee, with we. Mizmor Shir, Leyom HaShabbat, it's good to sing with you, to speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. To speak of your love in the morning, and to trust you through the night. So with permission, I'm going to step into the silence for a second. So just again, we're close today. We're just talking to each other, right? Right? Like, oh my God, right? Right? Like, oh my God. Like, wow. All right, so just feel, what did you feel? What did you feel? Don't think, non-conceptual. What did you feel? Right? In the chat box, anyone, what did you feel? Right? Unity, right? The sense of being together, lightened, right? Outrageous love, depth, right? Opening, right? Solid, right? Solid, a kind of sense. What else? Anybody? Gentleness, right? No boundary. Anyone else? Right? Come find us, right? Closer, right? Oots, right? Truth, right? A sense of truth in the chant, right? Reality trusts me. Connection, right? Sweetness, trust in being trusted, softness in my heart, right? Contentment, connection, strength of heart, right? Serenity, right? There's this sense that moves through us, right? That's evoked. So we're actually practicing, we're doing yoga to evoke Dharma, right? Does everyone get that sentence? Yoga evokes Dharma. Now stay close for a second, okay? And it's beautiful and it's important. Yoga to evoke Dharma, right? And I want to just feel like I blew open, said Jerry, and I joined in the all. So there was a certain moment in history in which in Germany, Fichte and Schelling, who were two major thinkers who are living and lecturing, at the same time as Hegel, right? The great dialectical philosopher. And there were about 50 years in Germany where there was this explosion of energy, much like the Center for Integral Wisdom, right? And the Foundation for Conscious Evolution, which holds, right, this broadcast, this One Mountain, Many Paths, right, is an explosion of energy that we want to kind of explode into culture and evolve the source code in this moment, poised between utopia and dystopia. There was an explosion of energy and culture. in which Fichte and Schelling were at the center. And there was a vision of reality that was emerging, and there was very deep dharmas that were spoken. But there wasn't a yoga. And one of my commitments in the next year, right, is to create with friends, right, and colleagues, to create at least, one major practice book, maybe two, right, of practice. We've gathered practices over the years, and the practices are the yoga. So Fichte and Schelling, this 50-year explosion, right, in Germany, all dissipated. It disappeared. It disappeared and actually degraded, right, into Germany's great descent into darkness. Germany, which was the seat of culture. Germany, which was the seat, right, of learning, which was the seat of progressive possibility. Germany descended, right, into the most demonic forms, right, of human depravity. So how did that happen? It happened because Dharma can't hold it by itself. You need yoga. You need to actually feel the Dharma. When I say you, I mean me. And I need to feel with you the Dharma alive in my body, and I need to know it anthro-ontologically. I need to feel it alive in my body, right? Where I know the truth, not just in my mind, and not even just in my heart. I know the truth in my toenails, and in my toenails, that I can feel it. And there are three kinds of trust. There's the trust of the mind. There's the trust of the heart, but there's the trust of my belly, right? My toenails, my hara, right? It's cellular, right? I've got to know Dharma. I've got to know first values and first principles in my very molecular structure. It's the trust of the body, right? Like that. So let's practice. And one of the projects this year is to create, right, to gather, we have folders and files and to gather and to create, a world spirituality practice book, right? And a kind of cosmoerotic humanism set of practices, right? So that we can actually, right, download these into our own practice and into culture. And it can't be a list of 5,000 practices. That's not going to work. It has to be a way in which I order my life, right? How do I practice every day and every week? What's my daily cycle? What's my weekly cycle? What's my monthly cycle? What are my unique self practices, if you will? Okay. All right. Yay. Gorgeous. Okay. So let's talk today. Let's talk Dharma. Let's enter into first values, right? And first principles. And let's actually find this, right? The question is the meta crisis, as David resonated so beautifully, right? The answer is unique self and unique self symphony. So I want to talk about unique self and unique self symphony this week in a different way than last week. This is week 2. I want to talk about it in a new way. And I want to talk about it through a prism, which we've mentioned before in passing, but we've never put together. Okay. So what we're going to do now is talk about a key dimension of cosmoerotic humanism, a key dimension of unique self theory, which is called wake up, grow up, lighten up, and show up. Sometimes we also call it wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. And this is an essential part of our cosmoerotic humanism. It's an essential part of unique self theory. Now, what I want to do is show you how we got there. Because often what happens is a beautiful new understanding is presented, which penetrates the source code of culture, but we leave behind the partners who partnered with us in putting it together. And so I've had some really key partners, predecessors, who came before me who did pieces of this. I then received it and took it, I hope, to a new level, to a different level in a different direction, and understood it in terms precisely of unique self. So let's dive in. Here we go. We're here to talk about unique self and unique self symphony through a very particular prism. And I'm going to call that prism wake up, grow up, show up, and clean up. Now, this set of words and the meaning that I'm going to, with your permission, unpack through these words comes through a group of people, I'd say about 5 of us, who all worked with these words together in different ways. And the first person was Chogyam Trungpa. Let's see if I can get that name right. Trungpa, right? Trungpa was a wonderful teacher, right, who taught in Boulder, Colorado, and Naropa University. Trungpa came out of a very deep lineage, right, in the East, and he came to the United States, right, and he was, during the mid-70s, deeply engaged, right, in, the center of pulsing American culture that was seeking transformation. And when he would practice, he would say, Om Mani Padme Hum, right? And Om Mani Padme Hum, right, is a classical recitation in Buddhism, which speaks about the jewel of enlightenment. Om Mani Padme Hum. And what it basically says is, wake up, right? And wake up means wake up to the realization that you're not separate from all that is. Wake up to the realization that you are indivisible from the field of consciousness, that you are, in some ultimate sense, an expression of that field of consciousness. You are one with that field of consciousness, and that is your true self. That your true self is not your personality, right? It's not your ego contraction. It's not your trauma. That's all story, but your true self is your ultimate and utter identity with the field of consciousness itself. Wake up, right? Om Mani Padme Hum, wake up. But Trungpa would do it differently. He would say, Om Mani Padme Hum, grow up. Om Mani Padme Hum, grow up, instead of wake up. Now, what did he mean by that? And this was pointed out by my colleague and friend just in the last years before he died, John Welwood. And John Welwood was a student of Trungpa's. And John Welwood wrote in a very important book called The Psychology of Awakening. And although John doesn't say this in his book, but John was aware of it, that when Trungpa would say, Om Mani Padme Hum, grow up, what he was saying is, wake up, grow up. That's what he meant to say. Now, this wasn't noticed by anyone. And actually, the person who noticed this and wrote this, right, in a footnote in her book is my son's fantastic mother, Mariana Kaplan. And Mariana wrote an important, chapter and footnote where she pointed out that Trungpa was the person who began this unpacking. And it was a note that Mariana wrote that no one quite noticed it. I noticed it, and I talked to John about it. And he shared that with me, right? That's what Trungpa would do. He would say, Om Mani Padme Hum, which means wake up to your true self. Then he would say, grow up. So what did he mean by grow up? What did he mean by grow up? He was recognizing that there's some new realization in the West, which he called by the term grow up. And what did he mean? So by grow up, he meant psychological maturity, right? He meant doing your shadow work, right? He meant working your trauma, right? He meant the best of Western psychology. And what Trungpa was trying to say was, he was trying to express his own dawning realization that wake up wasn't enough, that you needed both to wake up and to grow up. Because if you just wake up, you can wake up and be an asshole, pardon the expression, right? You can wake up and be, pardon the expression again, a jerk. And none of those words sound nice, but actually you can wake up and be a knave. You can wake up and be scurrilous, right? You got the point. In other words, you can wake up and have actually a realization that your true self is one with the field of consciousness, but that waking up gets caught in the thicket of darkness, right? Which is your unclarified self. So if you have profound psychological immaturity and instability, or you're caught in trauma, or you can't actually see the ways that your shadow is playing, that you're going to wake up, but you could actually be cruel or impervious or insensitive or unkind or much, much more vicious. You could have an experience of waking up and run smear campaigns, right? And be, as it were, woke, if you will. This is the first notion of being woke, right? But not in the contemporary sense of woke. You're woke in the more classical Buddhist, right? Eastern mystical sense. You're woke, but you're mean, right? You're a mean woke person because you've awakened, but you haven't grown up. You haven't done, right, the deep inner work that you need to do psychologically, right, to be a good human being, to see yourself, to be self-aware, to be self-conscious. Everyone got that? So that's wake up and grow up. So John wrote a book called Psychology of Awakening. And on page 6, right, he actually talks about waking up and growing up. And he doesn't mention Trungpa, so I'm filling in the story here, myself and Mariana. John was actually taking this from Trungpa. John and I talked about it. And so that's where wake up and grow up originally came from. At the same time, now stay close, my dear friend, right, and the co-founder of the Center for Integral Wisdom, and a great, I think the greatest today integral philosopher, far and above, right, in terms of, integral thought, Ken Wilber. Ken and John were actually friends, right? They were in Lincoln, Nebraska at the time, as I've heard from both of them. John's passed, right? And Ken was also in Trungpa's circle, although studying formally with someone else, right, around Boulder at the time. And when Ken heard Om Mani Padme Om, grow up, he actually understood it differently. And so Ken started talking about wake up and grow up. And again, the story I'm telling you has never been told. I've woven this together over the years so we can actually understand this. And then we're going to add a huge new piece to it. Okay. So Ken hears Om Mani Padme Om, which means wake up, and then grow up. So wake up, grow up. Okay. So Ken hears, right, grow up, not as psychological maturity, which of course is clearly important. That's a given. But Ken hears it as developmental stages of consciousness, structure stages of consciousness, right? In other words, so let's say, for example, let's take the structure stages that are suggested by Abraham Cook, where Abraham Cook, in a text that we've studied together, talks about the fourfold song. And the first song is the egocentric song, me and my immediate circle of love. And the second song for Cook is the ethnocentric song, right? The circle of consciousness, which is my ethnocentric circle. Or then there's my world song, the world-centric circle of consciousness, right? In ethnocentric, I have a felt sense of love, care, and concern for my people, my tribe. In egocentric, for me and my survival clan, my immediate friends. In world-centric, I have a felt sense of care, love, and concern for every human being on the face of the planet. And then cosmocentric, which is the fourth song in Cook's writing. And the fourth song is I have a felt sense of love, care, and concern for all of reality itself, for every animal, for all of the inanimate world. And I feel the living sentience of reality, and I'm cosmocentric in my consciousness. So that's not psychological maturity. Does everyone get that? That's what Abraham Cook is talking about here, are structure stages of consciousness. And there are about 100 different developmental thinkers who work in this field of structure stages of consciousness. Right, and the co-president of the Center for Integral Wisdom, my dear friend and student and colleague and beloved, right, Zach Stein, right, Zach's field particularly is developmental consciousness. That's what he's involved in, and he's one of the leading experts in the world on these structure stages of development, and has added brilliant insights, right, to that field. So when Ken heard Trungpa say, Om Mani Padme Om, right, which means wake up, right, and then he would say, grow up, Om Mani Padme Om, grow up, Ken heard that to mean, and again, he didn't hear it to mean that Trungpa said it, but it evoked in Ken, and he articulated it as not psychological maturity, not grow up as psychological maturity, but grow up as what? Anybody? Grow up as what? As structure stages of consciousness. Isn't that beautiful? That's beautiful, right? And that's gorgeous, right? So I want to grow up from egocentric, right, to ethnocentric, right, to world-centric, to cosmocentric. Now, again, just like my wake-up experience is mediated through my psychological maturity, so my wake-up experience is mediated through the prism of my psychological wholeness or brokenness, so too, my wake-up experience, my true self experience, is mediated through the prism of my level of consciousness, right? So if I have a wake-up experience and I'm egocentric, I think, oh my God, all that matters is me and my people. I have a close friend who said to me that her brother said the only thing that matters is me and my wife and my son. That's what matters, right? That's what's special. That's what counts, right? If I'm ethnocentric, well, then I think the only thing that counts is my community, right? My nation, right? My religion. You know, my mother used to say to me, is it good for the Jews? That's what matters. That's ethnocentric consciousness. So I'm waking up, I have the sense of being one with the field, yet in this distorted and degraded and corrupt way. The same thing's true in Tibetan Buddhism. There's the sense of superiority. The Tibetan Buddhists are the chosen people, or maybe it's the Christians, or maybe it's a certain form of Islam. Maybe it's the Sunnis. Maybe it's the Shiites, right? Maybe it's right? Does everyone get that? Right? Any nation, any religion that says it's us, we're the chosen people in one way or the other, is actually experiencing, right? Even if they wake up, right? Osama bin Laden, right? Clearly was awakened in some real way. Look at the fire in his eyes, right? But that experience of waking up, right, is mediated through the prism of ethnocentricity, and it winds up being horrifically and terribly destructive. Okay, everyone get that? That's wake up and grow up. Now, stay with me, okay? Stay with me. That's a very, very big deal. Okay, stay with me. Let's stay really close here. So what then this body of understanding from Trungpa, from John and I talked, and from Ken and I talked about this a lot, came to me, right? Hi, my name is Mark Goffney. Great to meet y'all. And then I reinterpreted it. And that's how knowledge works, right? So I reinterpreted it as referring specifically, and this is critical, to unique self. So I then reread this whole story in the following way. When I wake up, I first wake up as true self. But when I wake up as true self, that's just the first step in awakening. This is critical. True self is the first step of awakening, not the second step. Then I wake up even more deeply, and I realize I'm not just true self, I'm an irreducibly unique expression of true self. I have a unique quality of intimacy, and I have an irreducibly unique perspective. I'm a unique configuration of eros and desire. So when I wake up, now we've completely reread this in the last, right, 10, 15 years, right? When I now the way we're understanding, the way we're reading Wake Up, Grow Up, Show Up, and Clean Up, and this is going to be the title of a book that we're doing, right? And this is the core of the practice book, right? We're understanding it and revisioning Wake Up and Grow Up, Show Up and Clean Up. We'll get to each of them in terms of unique self. When I wake up, that's not true self. When we're talking about waking up, we're not talking about true self. That's the first stage of awakening. But actually, there is no true self any place in the manifest world. Does everyone get that sentence? There's no true self any place in the manifest world. There is no true self. Because every true self is a unique self. I'm always a unique set of eyes. I always have an irreducibly unique perspective. I always have, right, a unique taste. I have a unique quality of intimacy, right? And we'll talk about, right, in a different week, pointing out instructions for unique self. So when I'm waking up, I wake up as unique self. Now, what's growing up? So growing up, and I'm going to integrate the two strands in growing up. Growing up means, number one, I need to get to sufficient psychological maturity, which was John Wellwood's reading of growing up, in order to realize my unique self. Because if I don't have psychological maturity, if I'm stuck in old patterns, I'm stuck in traumas, I can't see myself clearly, right? I'm acting out of my emptiness, right? I'm acting out of my brokenness. I'm acting out of my pathology. Then I'll never be able to really realize my unique self. Unique self has to come from the clarity of self, right? If I'm acting from my false self, if I'm acting from a false understanding of who I am or to cover up traumas and pains, so then my unique self will always be in some sense distorted. So I've got to grow up in order to live into the fullness of my unique self, number one. But number two, this is a big deal. In terms of developmental levels of consciousness, this is a very, very big deal. Actually, the highest developmental levels are when the experience of living from my unique self comes on board. This is very important. Now remember, unique self is not my separate self. The first self is separate self. I'm a skin encapsulated ego. I then make the first big move of awakening. I transform, realize my real identity. My true self is the true self, the singular that has no plural. The total number of true selves in the world is one. I participate in the field of consciousness, which is the field of true self. But then I realize I'm an irreducibly unique expression of that field. That's unique self. But that unique self, meaning my unique expression of the field as the guiding motivational architecture in my life, that comes on board at the higher levels of developmental consciousness. So for example, in Claire Graves's model, which his students, Chris Cowan and Don Beck, called spiral dynamics, they talk about first tier and second tier. So there's 6 developmental levels, right, from beige to green, which are called first tier. Then you jump to tier 2. And tier 2, which is called yellow, they ascribe colors, right, to different levels of spiral dynamics. So tier 2 is yellow. That's when you jump to the high developmental levels. And I had a very beautiful conversation and did a dialogue with Don Beck, who's, again, the major architect of the contemporary presentation of spiral dynamics. And Don had just read my book, Your Unique Self. And he said, your unique self is the Bible of yellow, right, of second tier, right, when you step into second tier consciousness. Meaning, when you grow up to higher levels of consciousness, when you move from first tier to second tier to the higher developmental levels, the demarcating characteristic of the higher developmental levels is unique self. And we can maybe put in the chat box, there's a journal of integral theory and practice, which is an academic journal, which I edited, one issue and wrote a bunch of articles with a whole bunch of colleagues on unique self. It was the big academic issue on unique self. So I did there a dialogue with Suzanne Cook-Greuter, who's a well-known developmentalist, right? In which I was able to, it was very exciting to show Suzanne that actually unique self, even in her model, was implicit at the highest levels of developmental consciousness. And since that time, I've talked to many developmentalists, and there's a kind of cross platform, right, understanding that unique self actually comes online when you grow up to the highest levels of developmental consciousness. Now, that's a very big deal. Stay close, everyone. Stay close. Stay close. So waking up, as I wake up, not to true self, that's the first step. I wake up to my unique self, my unique expression of true self. Growing up, I either do my work of psychological maturity, right? I do my interior work to achieve psychological maturity. And then I grow up in a way that I'm able to grasp and to become my unique self, number one. Or, right, I actually grow up to higher and higher structure stages of consciousness. When I get to the higher structure stages of consciousness, I then begin to be able, right, to actually act from my unique self. My unique self becomes the guiding force of my life. Clear, everyone? Everyone got this? Now, next. Now let's go next step. Ready? Cleanup. What's cleaning up? So cleanup is very, very important, right? In what we call unique self theory, which is the core of the new story, right? What cleaning up actually means is working with my shadow. To clean up, sometimes we call it cleanup, sometimes we call it lighten up. Right? Dustin DePerno suggested the term cleanup. I suggested the term lighten up, but they're both fine. But the term doesn't really matter. Right? The essence is it's the realization that I need to also clean up. Now, in some sense, there's a beginning of cleaning up, of course, and in working with my psychological maturity, but that's just general. Let's put that under, right, in John Welwood's model, that would be under grow up, right? But cleaning up means something very, very particular, because in the unique self teaching, shadow means something very specific. Now, stay close, everyone. This is a very big deal. Generally, the way shadow is understood. So, for example, there's a book published by Jeremy Tarcher Press, edited by, I think, Connie Zweig, called, it's called Shadow, or it's called Romancing the Shadow, or the Big Book on Shadow. It's a black book, appropriately so. And there's about 50 articles on shadow in the book. And pretty much all of the articles, right, agree one way or the other that what shadow means is your shadow qualities, your anger, your rage, your, inappropriate, forms of, behavior in the world, right? Your ethical breakdowns, your pettiness, your contraction, right? So shadow is identified with all these, negative qualities, these shadow qualities. So one of the things we've said in unique self theory is that that's a mistake. That's not what shadow is. Shadow at its core is the blocking of your light. It's the shadowing of your light. Now, what's your light? Your light is your unique configuration of light, your unique configuration of being and becoming, AKA your unique self. Your light is not generic. Every light has a unique pulsing frequency. So your light, Ner Elohim Nishmat Adam, the candle of God, is the unique soul structure of a human being. And what that means, without getting into soul structure, what that means generally is that every person's a unique configuration of light. And I can't take from your light for mine. And I need to actually draw from my own unique light. Now, when my unique light is in darkness, when it's occluded, when it's blackened, when it's shadowed, that's shadow. So unique self, and this is very, very important. And I had many conversations about this with my colleague who was a fellow at the Center for Integral Wisdom for a couple of years, Elliot Ingersoll. And Elliot, was I think probably the best integral, psychotherapist, psychopharmacologist. He's a brilliant thinker in this particular area, right? In terms of, particularly integral thought, and he's also very good at general psychological thought. He's a professor at Kent State. So Elliot gave strong support to this notion that we developed in unique self theory, which is that shadow is, now stay close, everyone, shadow is your unlived unique self, and shadow is your distorted unique self. So cleanup means also to clean up so that you can actually reveal your unique self. Because cleanup means you clean up your shadow, right? You clean up or you lighten up your shadow, meaning you actually integrate your unlived self into your light, or you clarify the distortion of your unique self so that your unique self can appear in all its luminosity and all of its radiance. So now check this out for a second. It's very beautiful. So it turns out that wake up means I'm waking up to unique self, which is the unique face of true self. I'm growing up, right? I'm achieving psychological maturity so that I can actually, right, uncover my unique self, or I'm growing up to the higher structure stages of consciousness, which are, their demarcating characteristic is unique self. And then I'm cleaning up, meaning I'm integrating my unlived life, which is my shadow. My shadow comes from my unlived life. Let me stay close for a second. In other words, I think I skipped a step, which is really critical. When I don't live my unique self, when I have an unlived life, that unlived life goes into the darkness. It goes into shadow. That's what we mean. You have a unique self, that's your light, right? That's your unique frequency of luminosity. When that unique self, unique frequency of luminosity goes into shadow, that's what we call shadow. Now, then, when your unique frequency of luminosity is distorted, it's in the darkness, it's in shadow, it wants to attract your attention. So it acts out. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like my unique self. I feel depressed. I feel anxiety because my unique self is in shadow. My unique light is in shadow. So then I act out. When I act out, those are shadow qualities. Does everyone get that? So when I'm not living my story, my unique self story, when I'm not living, not my ego story, when I'm not living my unique self story, which is the story of my unique luminosity, when I put that in the darkness, it's in shadow, then it acts out. When it acts out, it appears as shadow qualities, as rage, jealousy, right? Inappropriate forms of relationship, inappropriate forms of contraction, inappropriate forms of making myself small, or inappropriate forms of boundary breaking. But all of those acting out are shadow qualities, right? The shadow literature has mistaken the shadow qualities for shadow. Shadow is when my unique luminosity is in shadow. So what that means in terms of this schematic: wake up, grow up, show up, lighten up, right? Or wake up, grow up, show up, clean up. We'll have to decide on which one we like better. But clean up or lighten up again means, right, integrate my unlived life into my unique self, right? So all four of these, wake up, grow up, clean up, are all unique self. And then we get to show up. Show up's the last one. Everyone at show up now? Now I can show up. And what does it mean to show up? To show up as my unique self. Does everyone get that? How do I show up? I show up as my unique self. That's what it means to show up. So once I wake up and I grow up and I clean up, does everyone get that? Once I wake up and I grow up and I clean up or lighten up, right? Then I can show up as unique self. Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. Now notice what we did today. What I wanted to do, and I think we've never done this in the public space, and so we can kind of have it in kind of one, recording, so we can all just have access to it. So I wanted to just share with you first the delight of crediting people, right, who actually participated with you in developing, right, a set of first principles and first values. So it was delightful to quote, and we did quite a lot of research to get to this, right? Quite a lot of searching. This is not easily available, but oh wow, now we get to quote, beautiful Trungpa. And then, beautiful, I didn't know Trungpa, right? But I knew John, right? John Welwood, who was in Trungpa's circle, and what he did with this Om Mani Padme Hum, grow up, and then what my dear friend and partner in the center and gorgeous man, Ken Wilber did with, right, this Om Mani Padme Hum, grow up, how he expressed wake up and grow up in terms of structure stages of consciousness, right? Then we got to add, right, unique self theory as it applies to shadow. And this is the last 100 pages of the Unique Self book, Your Unique Self. We have 100 pages which talks about shadow being a distortion of unique self, your unlived unique self. We got to actually bring unique self theory to the table, right? To understand that waking up is waking up not to true self, to unique self. Growing up is growing up, right, to unique self, and the two different lines: psychological maturity and structure stages of development, higher levels of consciousness. Cleaning up, and again, bring unique self theory to the table is to clean up or to lighten up, right? To lighten up your shadow, meaning to integrate your full unique self that's unlived or distorted. And all of that comes together, right? Show up, right? Show up as your unique self. So when we use wake up, grow up, show up, right? Lighten up, wake up, grow up, lighten up, show up, right? This is a core expression of unique self. And unique self stands at the core of world spirituality, right? Of cosmoerotic humanism. Cosmoerotic humanism is the general name we give for the kind of, it's kind of like romanticism or existentialism, the great, set of integrated meta theories that become this large new worldview for humanity, right? This new story. It's the new story of value, right? Grounded in first principles and first values. That's a clear sentence, is cosmoerotic humanism. A more general name is what we call evolutionary spirituality or world spirituality or evolutionary world spirituality. But let's just go with world spirituality for now. I won't get into those distinctions now. By world spirituality, we mean generally the sense that there's an integrated expression of all the great systems of wisdom in the world, which we might call world spirituality. We'll talk more about that in a different context. But this gives us a sense of what we mean by this new story and how unique self is at the very center of the new story. And here's the last piece. And with this, we're going to go right into Leonard Cohen and in the Holy and Broken Hallelujah, right into Krista. Okay, and here's the last piece. We're about to move into prayer. You can only pray as a unique self. And the reason, beloved friends, I spend so much time on trying to articulate this unique self idea is because it's the cornerstone of the reclaiming of value. Right? Who am I? I'm an irreducible, unique expression of uniqueness. And it's the cornerstone of reclaiming my relationship to the larger field, right? My relationship to the divine. I can only relate to the divine from the perspective of unique self. Unique self means I'm not just absorbed in the meditative one, but I'm in conversation. I'm being held, right? I'm being held by the field. I'm being held by the personal face of the field. And next week, we're going to talk about the personal face of the cosmic field. But I'm being held by the field. The field knows my name. And I matter to the field, right? My uniqueness is an expression of my irreducible value. And the field, sometimes called God or Mat or Geist or the implicate order or Atman is Brahman or Adonai hu Elohim, the field holds me. The field is the infinity of intimacy that holds my holy and broken hallelujah and knows my name. See, as a separate self, right, I'm just a skin encapsulated ego who's going to die and disappear, right? And how am I relevant at all, right, to the field of consciousness? There is no field of consciousness. I'm not relevant to it. But when I realize unique self, I realize, no, there's a field of consciousness, which I'm indivisible from. I'm a unique expression of that field. And that field, the entire field, also has a personal face. The mother, she, the God, the field of persona that knows my name. So let's go pray. Let's finish today with prayer, right? With the holy and the broken hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. And I'm going to ask everyone, if you can, not to text or just to stay and let's just be with Leonard in this prayer where we offer our holy, broken, and hallelujah. We'll finish with a short prayer with Krista, the holy and the broken hallelujah. At Leonard Cohen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Take us inside.
Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. 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 Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to a kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah. 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 You say I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name. But if I did, well really, what's it to you? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
and we ask for everything, right? Whatever we've never asked for before, from our deepest place, from our holy and our broken hallelujah. We ask for ourselves, for my aunt, for my uncle, for my cousin, for my brother, right? For myself, right? Let's ask for everything. Oh my God, right? Ask for everything. And I pray to sparkle, right? To sparkle as the universe comes alive. Oriana, yay, Oriana. Whenever I see Oriana, my whole heart bursts open with joy, right? And I just feel Oriana's energy. Terry, I pray that it might let my unique light shine. Yes, thank you, Terry, your unique light. And Terry, you and I have to talk the next couple of days about the board meeting, right? Oh my God, Vashti, I pray that I daily, right, becoming comfortable and comforted in my physical body and living hallelujah and love and joy every day. Yes, Becca, I pray for my brothers and sisters in Ukraine, right? Jamie, I pray to sing my song and open my heart. Shahat, I pray to see Shahati, that the stones are rubies, right? That, oh my God, right? Right, Myra, I pray that I show up in this lifetime and I welcome others with me. I pray, Krista, for all of us to become and enact the Dharma through this beautiful yoga of unique self. David, I pray for a reinvigoration of love like never before. Simona, oh my God, right? I pray for Marco's transition to be sweet as Goddess grants his wishes, right? Kathy, I pray to be more inclusive and less judgmental, right? Paul and Carol, so good to see you. I pray to break the boundary that keeps me small. Claire, right? The head of the Unique Self Institute, praying for a peaceful resolution in Ukraine. Yes, right. Denver, oh my God. I pray to live fully as my unique self, giving my unique contribution. Andre, I ask for eternal love, right? Shatin, let people know that stones are rubies. Kirsten, Zohar, I pray to show up fully as unique self in Unique Self Symphony. Cullen and Merritt, right, in France. Random people show up who would never show up in vulnerability to participate in something greater, right? Oh my God, right? Right, Carrie, I pray that we all be relieved of trauma, right? We pray for peace in the Ukraine. We pray that my own children, says Suzette, right? And all the children understand, right, with all their hearts. Michael, I can't wait to meet. I pray for the full integration of mine, our shadows. Benjamin, allow me to open my eye of value and walk with you on the inside, right? Right? Oh my God, right? We don't have a name, but we got a phone number, right? 990-592-17198. I pray to share my unique self-love for the good of all humanity. Jerry, welcome. I pray to stand with the Crystal Lady once again, right? Shante, it's so good to see you. So good to see you, right? I pray for health in all perspectives, pouring love into Shanti. Shanti's a deep partner and friend who I wish I could talk to every day. Just sending you so much love, right? Oh my God, Susie, welcome, Susie. Welcome, Susie, and may we all be ready to show up, right? Oh my God, Susie, right? Susie always shows up, right? Renee, right? I pray to see in the mirror the love light of my heart. Mosa, I pray for my two longtime friends dealing with disease. Mosa, so good to see you. Lady J, I pray to show up in ever deeper ways. Michael, I pray for the new human and the new earth. Ethan, I pray for a deeper healing of my most challenging shadows, right? Oh my God, right? Praying for all the future children. Oots, I pray for close community, right, and intimacy, right? And we weave these prayers together and they're lifted to the sky, right, and impressed in the depths on the lips of eternity. Oh my God, right? Welcome everyone. Krista, tell us how to take the next step. Blow us away. Love us.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Mark Gaffney, for this beautiful, beautiful journey through this invitation to wake up, show up, grow up, clean up, and then in a different order. But what an invitation that is. And I could just see the prayers are beautiful, but throughout the whole teaching, people saying, oh my God, tears of gratitude just for the depth of this teaching and how all the pieces that you, Ethan, you wrote it, that you studied and learned are just coming together and popping into place. There was so much here today. So I can also imagine that that there can be a desire to study deeper and to really learn more about unique self, awakening as unique self. So I just put in the chat box, and we'll also put the links later in the description below if you're watching this later, to this beautiful book, Your Unique Self. And actually there's two books. There's one I put in right now, An Integral Path to Success, but the other one is actually called Awakening as Your Unique Self. So maybe someone can help me and put the right link in the chat box. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. So that is a beautiful chance to study this material, this Dharma of unique self, deeper and deeper and deeper. And of course, the invitation is to practice. And as you know, I'm here now in Miami with the risk I shared it last week to get COVID, which I did. And I just wanted to let you all know that I'm doing so much better. And I got a negative test today. But one of our practice here is to commit our outrageous acts of love in our unique corner of the world, but also to tell the stories of the outrageous acts of love that were committed, to inspire each other and to bring more and more aliveness to outrageous love in the world. So I just want to take a moment to honor Benjamin, who has been so kind to take me into his home, his unique risk, to take me into his home and to take care of me all week. He has been preparing meals for me and loving me all week. So thank you so much, Benjamin, for doing that. And for me, it was such an amazing experience to feel the Dharma really coming to life in the spaces between us. So that is also my invitation for all of us here, because we are not only invited to consume the Dharma and to study it and to get the information, but actually, as Mark invited us today, to practice it, to embody it, to become it. And that is, as we always say, also at the Outrageous Love Festival, where we practice and embody every year in Holland for 8 days in a beautiful retreat, we always say the real practice happens on the path where we meet each other. So let's find each other, and there's beautiful ways to do that. You can participate in co-creative groups where we are working on many different projects together. In the beginning, Christina mentioned it. The Outrageous Love Ambassador group is born, where we inspire each other to reach out to new people and share outrageous love and invite them to come and join this community. So that's one group that you can participate in, but there's many more. So just reach out to either me, I'll put my email address also in the chat box, or maybe someone can help me with that, or reach out to Christina Amelong, and we're happy to meet with you, to get to know you, to discover your beautiful, unique gifts and how you can participate in this revolution in a way that your heart desires. And I just want to close with showing you how you can also step in to become a member, which actually the better word is to become an evolutionary partner of One Mountain, Many Paths. Because as we always say, this doesn't belong to me, this doesn't belong to Mark, this doesn't belong to Christina. We are all here together holding this beautiful space, our beautiful evolutionary home, and we're all invited to also take responsibility for it. So you can do that by becoming a partner and making your contribution. And you can choose to make a monthly contribution. It already starts from $25 a month, because we want to make this opportunity available for everyone who desires it. But we also invite everyone to give as much as you possibly can and resource our home. So that's why you can choose your own contribution. If you don't want to make a monthly contribution, you can also click right here and just make a one-time donation. That would be so awesome. And if you do step in to become a member, if you scroll down, you can find here all the beautiful courses that you get access to. This is all recorded at the Outrageous Love Festival. So that's, or most of them at least. So that's 8 days of hours and hours of pure transmission of this Dharma. And as you can see right here, there is the course Awakening Your Unique Self. So that's another place where you can dive deeper into this first principle of unique self. I can't wait to meet you inside in the study groups, in the practice groups. Tomorrow, actually, every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, we have an evolutionary writing group. So you're also welcome to join us there. Please just find me, let's connect, and let's love this open together. Right now, we are going to end, as we always do every week, we're ending with a beautiful blowout dance party. So you will all be invited to what is technically called Promote as Panelists. So if you get that pop-up, please click yes, so we can all turn on our videos and see our beautiful faces while we are bringing everyone on. You can also choose to click on view and then choose gallery view, so you can see everyone and not just the person speaking. So Christina, please bring us on with this beautiful dance song, We Are the People. How does it get any better than this? Let's dance.
We are the people.